Stardew Valley is one of my most favorite games. I have upwards of maybe 1,000 hours playing this game across many different save files, and I'm always pleased by the different ways you can approach the game. If you want, you can create an entire empire and topple the infrastructure of a local town, or you could just romance the villagers and, give your spouse a kiss, drink a cup of coffee, no big deal. Or you could do both. You could fish on end and no one's going to stop you. There's just so much possibility in this farming simulator. So with all the things to do though, it's important to know how much you've done and how much more there is to do. And starting in patch 1.5, Stardew Valley introduced a perfection tracker. Ever since they did, this has just kind of been my goal in playing. I've just been so curious. Now that we have this perfection tracker, how soon can we reach perfection? I had 2 attempts in patch 1.5. Let's meet Steph. Steph works on Farm, and currently it's the last day, winter 28 of year 2. Looking outside, you can see, no plants, but definitely the infrastructure for more. She has fished basically every fish out of the waters around Stardew Valley and Ginger Island. She has developed relationships with all the villagers, and she did basically everything necessary to achieve perfection in patch 1.5, except for one thing. See, there's this island field office, and you collect bones around the island for Professor Snail, and Steph got all but one. She doesn't have the second snake vertebrae. They only spawn in artifact spots, and if I only had just one more, I would have reached perfection in the save file as soon as the first day of year 3. And let me just show you the extent I went to try to get this last artifact spot. I cleared out my entire Ginger Island farm just hoping to get one more artifact spot, and then from that artifact spot, hoping to get that final vertebrae. In patch 1.6, they actually let you find them from these muscle nodes, although the drop chance isn't that likely. So despite all these muscle nodes on the beach, Steph still does not have her snake vertebrae. Very unfortunate. Hey, at least Shane sent us a pizza in the mail. Why not let's eat a little snack? What we can do, though, is see how far into perfection Steph got. Taking a look at the perfection statue, you can see that a few categories aren't all the way complete, but I do just want to direct your attention to the golden walnuts. I am missing 3. And had I found that snake vertebrae, that golden walnuts would be 130 out of 130, and perfection would have been achieved. All these blank spots are just the 1.6 introductions, though this one right here that I'm going to show you in cooking, this blank spot right here, this is the shrimp cocktail. It's not a 1.6 item, and it's the reason why 1.5 perfection runs can't happen until either the very last day of winter year 2 or the first day of year 3. You get it as a recipe from the Queen of Sauce, and in patch 1.5, she was only ever on the TV, so you had to wait for this recipe. Without the snake vertebrae, Steph's run came to an end. However, Boo came along, and Boo in fact got perfection as soon as possible in a 1.5 save file. This grandpa animation comes for every single save file at the beginning of year 3. Legacy of Farm is eternal. And what's interesting here about the grandpa scene is that it does overlap with perfection things too. That rumbling sound is an indicator of reaching perfection. That's some rocks crumbling, perhaps, that lets you then access an area called the summit. I am really glad, though, that Grandpa is proud of me on this farm. I did put in a lot of work to achieve perfection by the start of year 3. So starting our day, you can see those parrots. That is from perfection, and then the candles lighting up is from the year 3 evaluation. So that's even more overlap between these 2 events in the game. Going over to Mr. Key's Walnut Room, we do get the statue of true perfection, as soon as possible in a 1.5 save file. And of course, since 1.6 is now out, you can see that a few percentages aren't all the way full. There are some missing items from the shipping page, a few fish missing, and one recipe that was introduced in 1.6. Speaking of, patch 1.6 introduced so much to the game. Here are all the patch notes on the Stardew Valley wiki for patch 1.6. It would be too much to go over all that, but I do want to highlight two items. First, the snake vertebrae is no longer a problem because of the introduction of treasure totems. These let you summon a ring of artifact spots around your character, and with this item, I'll give you a little demonstration, we can get as many snake vertebrae as we want. So let's clear out some space on the farm, drop our last bomb just for fun, and craft those treasure totems. Well, they can only be spawned on non-tilled tiles, so we actually need to clear that. Let's move the horse out of the way and spawn some artifact spots. They do spawn in rings, so I am missing those top 3 artifact spots out of all these rings, but I don't think it really matters, especially just for this demonstration. Let's unearth all those little wormies and see what kind of goodies we get out of this. And after a little costume change and throwing away all the items we aren't really looking at right now, you can see that we received 15 snake vertebrae, so this is no longer a problem. The second item I want to highlight, well, items are books. In particular, there is this Queen of Sauce cookbook, and this prevents the shrimp cocktail issue. After finding 100 golden walnuts on Ginger Island, you can buy this from the bookseller, and you can learn all the recipes you haven't seen on TV yet. So here are some 1.6 attempts that I made. First, let's meet Britt. Well, we actually did meet Britt in the intro to this video. She achieved perfection on fall day 21 of year 2. That cookbook really came in handy. And you can see that this is a 1.6 save file. She shipped all of those goods. Here are the statues that you can get from the mastery system. And let's head on over to Ginger Island so we can take a look at her perfection tracker. Britt opted to save a little bit of money here. So as we walk up to the perfection tracker, we do get the statue. But looking into it, you'll see that I did purchase 10 waivers here from a little unscrupulous character in a cave. And I opted to buy the waivers from Fizz instead of doing the golden clock because it costs 5 million gold from Fizz, but 10 million gold for the clock. So I opted for the cheaper version here. Now, that was a little bit unsatisfying though. So then, in my second run with Muru, I opted not to do any perfection waivers. I wanted to see how fast I could do it in a more earnest way. So Muru fished all the fish, shipped all the things, raised all the hearts with all the villagers, and unfortunately, I made a mistake. There is just one crafting recipe that I didn't actually get. And we can see here that I do get the statue, but upon further inspection, I do have one waiver from Fizz, and the crafting recipes are only at 99% instead of 100. So instead of telling you, I figured I'd just show you. Going back home, entering the farmhouse, we can see that I don't have a basement, and with no basement, we have no casks. I just forgot that the cask recipe was locked behind Robin opening the basement for me, and I opted for the waiver instead of waiting a couple days for Robin. So here is my third and most recent run in a 1.6 save file with Biggie. And Biggie actually hasn't achieved perfection yet. You can see there's no rumbling sound in the distance, there are no parrots when I walk outside. Let's give Sam a kiss. But Biggie is right there. He has almost achieved perfection, and in fact, you could watch him do it right now. Or maybe first, let's pet the ostrich. Give the ostrich some love too. All right, onwards to Mr. Key's walnut room. Checking the statue, we're at 99% complete, We are also missing one recipe, just like Muru. However, this isn't an issue. On Spring 22, I completed a special order quest. There are 9 of these that give different crafting recipes, and you must get all crafting recipes for perfection. So, thankfully, we finished the last quest yesterday, and Linus is teaching us how to make fiber seeds in the mail. Ooh, and a present from Evelyn, a nice chocolate cake to celebrate the occasion. So now that Biggie is armed with the knowledge of how to make fiber seeds, and conveniently with all the materials already in his inventory, we can go back into Mr. Key's walnut room, double check that we're still not at perfection, craft the final recipe, and now we have hit 100%. So he reached perfection either on Spring 23 or 24, depending on how you look at it. So is that the soonest we can make it, or can we do it even sooner? There are 2 things preventing us from getting perfection until a certain date. The first one is Kent. Like with most Stardew Valley challenge runs, Kent kind of breaks most runs. You just kind of have to wait for him to show up, befriend him, learn a few cooking recipes from him from the mail, and then finally you can reach perfection. He only shows up during spring of year 2, so it's impossible to get perfection in year 1. We can't befriend him until he's there, and we can't learn his recipes until he sent them in the mail. The second gate towards perfection are those special orders. There are various quests that give us different crafting recipes, and we need to craft every item in the game to achieve perfection. Not all of these quests give recipes, so it is important that we accept the ones that do. We get the solar panel from Caroline, the geode crusher from Clint, the farm computer from Demetrius. There are 2 quests that do that. We get the bone meal recipe from Gunther, we get the fiber seeds from Linus, that's what Biggie just learned, the stone chest recipe from Robin, the quality bobber from Willie, and finally the mini obelisk and the monster musk recipe from the wizard. And if you're counting, that was 9 separate recipes. So starting on fall 1, when we get the special orders board, we can just count out the weeks all the way up to 9 and see where we stop. And conveniently, it is the first week of spring when we meet Kent. So both of those limitations line up on the same week. Let's take a closer look and see what exactly we need to do in the first week of year 2. On day 1, we need to accept the final special order and also befriend Kent to 10 hearts all at once. Then, on the second day in spring, we need to cook the recipes that Kent sent us in the mail, and finally craft our last item. With that, we will have reached perfection, and we can reach the summit on the 3rd day, and sorry Kent, we're not going to celebrate your birthday. A new 1.6 item, Star Drop Tea, lets us befriend Kent as soon as possible. When you give a Star Drop Tea to a villager, you get 1 friendship heart, and interestingly, there is no limit of the amount of teas you can give someone in 1 day. So I don't really recommend shoving 10 teas down someone's throat, but I'm sorry Kent, there's just no other way. Now that we have a goal, we need to come up with a plan. I just decided to make a whole bunch of different save files. I made 50, in fact, and I used some tools to predict which of these save files was going to be the best one to reach perfection as soon as possible. The first tool is a Stardew checkup website. It's really useful. You can predict the traveling cart, you can predict weather, you can predict the contents of geodes with it, and I will be using this throughout my run. We can go into our save files and upload a certain farm and double check what items come in the traveling cart at what time. First, I'm looking for garlic. This is a year 2 crop that I desperately need in year 1. In this particular seed, I do get it, so I recorded a yes. The second item I'm going to be looking for is a red cabbage. It's not necessary to find one of these, but it is just really convenient to get it from the traveling cart instead of the skull caverns. Lastly, I'm looking for a nautilus shell. Similarly, you can get this many different ways, but I would like to guarantee that I do have one in my save file. And lastly, I'm checking rain to see how many catfish I can fish up in the first 2 weeks. Here's a second tool I'm using. It's Blade's Map Predictor. As the name suggests, you can predict what items drop based on their location on the map, but I'm not going to use this part of the tool. I'm mostly interested in the special orders predictor here, because I need to guarantee that I do have a save file that will give me the 9 recipes in a row that I need. I don't want to get to fall and then fail just because I don't have access to the right quests. And here's a little example of me using it. I'm going to study this particular game seed, and what I can do is actually just upload my file straight into the map predictor. And then I can open the special orders tab, and there are a lot of checkboxes, well, just 5 up top, that determine what quests show up. We can pretty much guarantee sewing machine access because we get it from Emily once we collect our first cloth. The bottom 2 checkboxes aren't that important because they relate to the key quests, and none of those give crafting recipes. And we can run a simulation here. We can get on into fall and see what quests we could accept. Here, Gus's omelet doesn't give us a crafting recipe, so we're kind of locked into choosing the prismatic jelly quest. And once we click prismatic jelly, you can see that it disappears from week 2. Here, both community cleanup and cave patrol both give us crafting recipes, so let's just pick the first one. Gus's omelet comes back again, so we have to pick a curious substance, and we continued checking quests like this, so on and so forth. Next, I want to show you what a failure looks like. In this particular seed, I do get an early pumpkin in spring from the traveling cart, so I can guarantee that I get island access by around week 3 of fall. Let's accept the prismatic jelly quest because Gus's omelet's coming back again. Robin's project doesn't give a recipe, so we'll pick the other one. For week 3, after unlocking Ginger Island, we don't really have a choice because Juicy Bugs is the only quest here that gives a crafting recipe. By week 4, I could open up the resort. It does offer the biome balance quest, but I don't need it because I already unlocked the farm computer from completing aquatic overpopulation. So let's pick Cave Patrol and head on into winter. Again, we don't want biome balance, so let's pick a curious substance. But then unfortunately, by the second week of winter, neither of these quests are going to give us a crafting recipe, and this run is over. So we just have to give up and try a different file seed. And after those 50 farms, I only found one that succeeded, and it wasn't even a good save either. The 1102 corresponds to the nautilus shell, garlic, red cabbage, and rain. So I did find a nautilus shell and garlic, but I didn't find a red cabbage, and I also don't have an impressive amount of days of rain early in the year. I don't even have a pumpkin from the traveling cart. So this save seed could succeed in terms of the quests, but it's just terrible. Like, I would have preferred the red cabbage. I really want more days of rain so I can fish up catfish. It's just, out of the 50 seeds, this is the only one that I found. And as you can see here, the probabilities of each item coming aren't too low individually. So I was hoping that I could get a better save seed that had, the red cabbage, more rain, but after searching for 50 files, I just couldn't find any. That is, until I found this save seed right here. At this point, I don't even know if it's going to have a garlic or a nautilus shell or anything. I'm just checking if the quests are even going to work. Here, what's kind of interesting is that on this week 3, I have the same quests regardless of island access, so it's kind of convenient that I know I'll get Juicy Bugs either way. And here, I don't like choosing aquatic overpopulation too soon, because I like the flexibility later on of either choosing it or biome balance. So let's choose the other quest and move on to winter. If we think about opening the resort right now, you can see that we get this tropical fish quest show up. I think it's because it unlocks a stingrays and you need that for the quest. But unfortunately, the tropical fish quest doesn't give us a crafting recipe, so we can't unlock the resort, otherwise we'd be locked in to choosing tropical fish. Fortunately, here we can choose island ingredients. Here we shouldn't open up the resort again, or else we're going to lose fragments of the past for tropical fish. So let's pick fragments of the past. And maybe waiting for aquatic overpopulation paid off, because we can actually choose it this time rather than Gus's omelet. What is kind of interesting though is biome balance takes its place, so let's just see what happens if we unlock the resort, do biome balance, and then move on to spring year 2. Unfortunately though, we get rock rejuvenation and gifts for George, neither of which give us a crafting recipe, so we have to go back, undo the resort access, undo biome balance, redo aquatic overpopulation to get that farm computer, and then see what's in store for spring. And what do you know? We get Cave Patrol. That is another quest we want, and with this quest done, we do have all 9 quests and all 9 recipes by spring day 1. But there's a catch. We didn't unlock the island resort. And unfortunately, for perfection, we need to. It unlocks the other part of Ginger Island for, say, the mermaid, who's going to give us some golden walnuts. It also unlocks those aforementioned stingrays, which we do need to fish up for perfection. So we gotta go right back into the predictor and try to figure out a way to unlock the island resort sooner. So let's go back in. Let's start it up the same way because the first 3 quests are kinda determined here. We'll get juicy bugs, we'll unlock the island, and you know what? Let's try to do aquatic overpopulation first. This gets us the farm computer, we just can't choose biome balance in the future. Moving on to winter, we can see that resort access does give us tropical fish again in weeks 2 and 3, so we should probably leave it unchecked. And here we have the option between a curious substance and cave patrol, so let's just pick the first one for now. And we can lock in island ingredients, and in a 3rd week, just double checking, yeah, still tropical fish. Okay, so no resort access yet, so let's uncheck that. Check fragments of the past, but hopefully we can unlock the resort now. Let's see what happens. We have Cave Patrol. That gives us a recipe, so let's click that and cross our fingers for spring. And what do you know? There it is, Robin's Resource Rush. That gives us the stone chest, and we have all 9 of our quests, all 9 of the recipes, and we unlock the resort early enough. And what's amazing about this seed is we get the nautilus shell, we get the garlic, we get the optional red cabbage, all of which I found using that Stardew predictor from earlier, and we get 5 days of rain. I want to emphasize how crazy this is. Like, look at all the numbers, almost none of them are 5. So let me actually just make a chart right here to really drive this point home. You can see that on average, you should expect 1 through 4 days of rain in the first 2 weeks of spring, and 5 is really, really rare. I didn't see any 6s. And rain is really important because not only does it water our crops, it also allows us to catch catfish, which again is a big money source in the first season of our Stardew run. And what's kind of cool is that we do have a little bit of flexibility here. I did check, and we could swap a curious substance for Cave Patrol on these different weeks, and either way we do guarantee all 9 of our recipes. I think I'll opt for Route 1 just because I like the crafting reward from a curious substance a little bit better than the crafting reward for Cave Patrol. We can also unlock the resort about the middle of winter, which will let us complete Ginger Island, and Robin's Resource Rush is stone this time, which to me is pretty easy to complete. No big deal. So now that we found our magical seed, let's boot up Stardew Valley and get right to it. Ooh, okay, I don't like how that character looks. And honestly, that one's kind of boring. Alright, this'll do. She kind of has that, like, cowlick hair thing. It's kind of giving, like, flock of seagulls vibes right now. So I guess our favorite thing could be seagulls, and we could do Flock Farm. What should we name her, though? I mean, we could do, like, Flock also. Maybe thinking of Flock from, like, Attack on Titan. And let's pick the Meadowlands, because I do like the chickens. Although, honestly, Flock's kind of an ass in the later seasons, so... Anj. That's better. Alright. We got our farm. We got our name. Our favorite thing has to be Titans now. So, I guess it's Titan Farm, then? And there we go. We have the perfect seed for this run. Oh, speaking of, let's actually make sure that we copy and paste it in there. All right, if we forgot that, it would have just all failed. And here we go.